Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Your best, most true, authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, make billions of dollars, solve all the world's problems. We can't quite guarantee those last two yet, but we're working on that because the way that we keep getting closer and closer to hitting all those goals is that we keep bringing on people that walk the talk. And there is no exception to this today, too, because I've got somebody great that I've had the honor of knowing now for a little while. And Nikki Bagby, who also in my world happens to be a change agent, thought leader, a doer. Nikki Bagby, who also happens to be the Chief External Affairs Officer of North 10 Philadelphia, working with the neglected and ignored, and doing so much, happens to be with us today, too. So, Nikki, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Hi, John. I'm so blessed to be here today, and thank you so much. It's great to be with great people all the time, and you are one of them. So thank you for having me.
You're so kind, and I feel the same way about you. And hey, Jay Duran, if you are watching and or listening, and you better be, then you know, first off, we love you. And secondly, I don't know Nikki without Jay Duran. Maybe eventually I would have gotten there, but I need to, for folks that you haven't, if you know Nikki, wonderful, then you know what I mean when I'm about to say this. But if you don't, I need you to know that I've got, and I used the word doer before, literally somebody who makes things happen, whether it's at the grassroots level or at the highest levels of decision-making and involvement. Nikki, I'm going back to the first time I met you, and
Yes.
I want to circle on this where North 10, first off, talk to me a little bit more in regards to North 10 matters. Why North 10 matters to you, the foundation, rather than me just reading words. I'd rather hear it from your lips in regards to why North 10 matters in 2024, 2025, and beyond.
Yeah, so I'm not going to give you all the technical pieces. I'll tell you why it's important to me, because I always want to be purposeful as to any work I do. Number one, North 10 is located in a neighborhood that I grew up in, not too far away from, literally 0.6 miles. And it embodies a community of very rich, vibrant people who have a lot of creative ideas, who are working hard and just trying to maintain their life. Unfortunately, living in very underserved, disadvantaged communities, there is a lack of access to those who are not getting the same playing field or the same equity across the board when it comes to services, right? So the reason why I love North 10 is not only that we're an organization that is place-based and right in the heart of the neighborhood, but we're there and we're a hub, right? A beacon of light where people can come in and get all kinds of social services. And because of that work, because our mantra is people are at the heart of what we do, is the reason why I'm there, right? I want to make sure that I'm a part of this great ecosystem that says we're here, we're going to help, and we're not going to give you, but we're going to walk alongside of you. Because people are smart. They don't need people to tell them what to do. They only need to gain access so that they can also have vibrant lives. So I'm there because I believe in the mission, John. I mean that. Unscripted. I mean that.
I feel your energy literally coming through a Zoom computer glass, and it always excites me. Folks, I showed up at a fundraiser because I was simply asked. One of the things you bring up, like neglected or not as well served neighborhoods. If you're from Philadelphia, folks, then what we're talking about specifically is the Hunting Park, East Tioga sections of Philadelphia. If you are not from Philadelphia, maybe we broaden the scope and talk about North Philadelphia, but it's Philadelphia, city of Philadelphia is what we are speaking about. I show up at an event because someone asked me to be there.
Mhm.
and that was great. Jay Duran, and rather than get into the technical nuts and bolts, it was and will be a a great fundraiser in a beautiful building with great food, beautiful people. I officially showed up in a tux. I'm the
Yes,
only
and
one, by the
you
way.
were looking amazing. I remember
Oh, I
that blue
wasn't fishing
tux
for.
with that
Sounds like
blue.
I'm fishing
Yes,
for
I remember
compliments,
that blue suit. It was
but
amazing. I thought you were sharp.
thank you. But here's what I'm going to add. The purpose of what was going on had very little to do, the mission, I mean, had very little to do with that sense of beautiful gowns and tuxes and food and drink and dance and celebrate and all that stuff. How many people would you estimate were at that fundraiser?
Listen, if I could have got 1,000 people, I would, but I wasn't allowed to. So we had about 350 individuals,
You
not
were
including the
packed.
staff. And not included staff. And the funny thing is, John, somebody said to me, why not go downtown, Center City? Why not
Mhm.
go to Society Hill?
Yeah.
I said, no,
Yep.
we're going to take a gymnasium. And people
Hmm.
could not believe that it was a gymnasium. We're going to have
Hmm.
a blue carpet instead of a red carpet because blue is our colors, right?
Yep.
So we had a tent and we had a blue
Hmm.
carpet and we people were taking pictures. People literally did not
Hmm.
know that we can take this 52,000 square feet of community center and
Hmm.
transform into an elegant venue. And we did it. And we wanted people to come in, see it, and also give a
Hmm.
tour so people could see hands-on what we were doing and why we were doing it. So it was great. I've outgrown it. I'm sorry that I outgrew it. We won't be there this next year. But unfortunately, that we had to turn people away, and we don't want to turn anybody away.
Okay, so it's for a great reason. Folks, I've never seen the place. I've never, this is the embarrassing part for me, is that I've been a lifelong Philadelphia resident. Um, Nikki gave a really impassioned presentation that night that just spoke to me because I was showing up originally because somebody asked me to. And then you meet somebody like Nikki, who literally, by the way, was dressed literally as if she was going to head to the Academy Awards immediately thereafter as a nominee, that decked out. And I talk about the doer is making sure everybody's accommodated and moving plates and chairs, and then gets to speak on stage that night in terms of why this matters. If you recall any parts of what you said that night, could you share them back with our audience in regards to
Absolutely.
what I feel like was one of the most authentic presentations I've ever heard? And I'm grateful that I've heard a lot.
Mhm.
And this is where I felt like the raw authenticity, which is what we're all about here on this
Yes.
podcast, really shined through. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so my speech was one that was close to my heart.
Hmm.
We offer a lot of services. One of them is workforce development. We want to
Hmm.
give people second chances, right? So we have one part to help people get into college if they want to get certified. The other part of the workforce is people who have been justice impacted, right?
Hmm.
Returning citizens, somebody that may have a charge
Hmm.
on a record. We want to give them
Hmm.
second chances. So people, we have city of licensing, we have HVAC training, all these great stuff, a community market.
Right?
But my message was I was that person, right? I came through a welfare to work program. I
Hmm.
came through a program that gave me an opportunity. I worked in a corporation, which was the largest insurance company in the world.
Hmm.
I came through a workforce development program. It worked. I came in the program. I stayed there a year. They said, Nikki, if you go anywhere, we need to really hire you. So I went from being a subcontractor
Hmm.
to somebody who worked. And when I left, that organization, I had to manage that entire state and a department. So it gave
Hmm.
me a window and
Hmm.
opportunity. And that's what North 10 does. It
Hmm.
is not just a place that just shoves you and say, here's a piece of paper, here's some information. But it is literally an ecosystem of trajectory changing hope, right? I say that why? because historically we know in the community, which was the fifth district, that's where it's
Hmm.
housed at. And
Thank you.
oftentimes it's one of those districts that's left aside, right?
Hmm.
But now here we are in the middle of a residential block. Like people, if you don't understand, like it is a house,
Hmm.
52,000 square feet of community
Hmm.
center. And they're like, okay, where did this come from? And what is this large building? It was an old SEPTA plant, right?
Hmm.
If people don't know who SEPTA is, old transportation, our transportation system
Yep.
that runs in Philadelphia and out to surrounding counties. And it was very desolate. And then our founder, Chase Limfest, said, you know what? Drew through community one day,
Hmm.
said, this is what my family, this is how I grew up in giving back. So he took a literally brought a piece of land and turned that land. I always say it's like planting a tree, right? These seeds
Hmm.
that was planted. And now there's this big old grand tree that is just bringing forth fruit and its branches that's just growing out in the complete community. And it's just giving the needs and giving and providing the food and nurturing that it needs to grow. So when we
Hmm.
say, Jay, that what my message was, John, it was the message was, there is hope here. We're
Hmm.
not, it's just like you said, it's just not a gala. We wanted you
Hmm.
to actually see the impact. So we had our youth group, right? So because we have out of school kind programming
Sure.
all year round. And it wasn't just the staff, it was the
Hmm.
children.
Hmm.
The children got up and introduced Mayor Parker.
Hmm.
The children got up and introduced Chase. The children did
Yeah.
the welcome, right? Why? Because we want them to be an intricate part of
Hmm.
everything we do. We are cultivating this generation, not just providing tutorial
Hmm. Hmm.
services, after school time programming, but you are the fiber of what North 10 represents. So I just told my truth. I
Mm.
told my truth and I gave a narrative that was not only external to me and the people that they serve, but it was me. So that's why the speech I gave, I guess it did do what it was supposed to do, but I was really
Mm.
talking out of my heart. I was offered access and it
Mm.
changed
Hmm.
my life literally. So, yeah, that was my story and I'm gonna
It was,
stick to
and it
it.
was a killer one too. Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
An unanswerable question, but I'll ask it anyway. If you hadn't had access, if you weren't empowered, what do you think would have been the outcome for you
I think I would have been in the
instead?
same, no, literally, I would have been in the same cycle of poverty, the same
Mhm.
cycle of hopelessness, the same cycle of not having the opportunities that others were afforded. I have friends, I
Mhm.
have family members that I grew up, we had the same playing field, but I was afforded an opportunity that some people were not. It's not that they're not living their lives but now I have a different opportunity. Right.
Mhm.
I have a different opportunity. It's not so much about having more money and all this access, but it's giving a greater opportunity to give others what I have. So when people say, well, Nikki, yeah, you're making a little bit of money, you're doing, I say,
Right.
yes, I am. But the difference is I'm taking all of the things that I've had and been afforded with and blessed with
Mhm.
and sharing that same ideology that if you have access, and I give that same message, I promise you, and you believe in yourself, because that's the mindset.
Mhm.
If you believe you can do it and you have access, there is nothing else you can do but be successful. So, yeah. So if I had not, I'm telling you, I
Mhm.
don't know where I have would literally, I don't know where my life would have been.
Mm. So if you could say in an either or type question, the sense of you fully appreciating the opportunity, did
Yes.
that come from the mindset or did it come from the opportunity? Because like that's to me always important. Like when these opportunities, like for instance, the you were describing the look of North 10. And folks, the link to the North 10 website will be there. Do yourself a solid. Just look at the pictures because and we'll get you to do way
Yes.
more than that. But just
Yes.
begin by because it doesn't look like anything in the neighborhood. Talk about something that fell out of the sky, right? But
Yes.
one of the things that I wonder, like for neighborhoods that are like you talk about like forgotten
Mhm.
and what gave you the bandwidth to fully respect and appreciate the opportunity that was there. Is that a part of you? Is
Yes.
that in your DNA? How did that work for you? Were you always that sort of an overachiever?
I think it's both and right
Okay.
because we can
Okay.
we can have opportunities, right? It's
Mhm.
this old parable. You can guide the sheep to the water, but they have
Ah,
to drink, right?
right.
So it's helping people to
Mhm.
help them with the mindset. That's why we have a 6-week life skills training, right? Because
Mhm.
we want people to know, are you mentally prepared for this change? Are
Mhm.
there anything that you need? Do you need
Mm.
diapers, right? Do you need food, right? Because this whole concept of social determinants of health, which is our umbrella of everything we do, that says people
Right.
are not healthy or they don't have because there is no access. And if I don't have food, I'm not going to worry about whether or not I have a toothache, right? So
Mhm.
it's being able to, it's both and having the mindset, but also having the opportunity. Because I can think I'm great all day, but if there's nothing in front of me that can help me with that greatness, I'm just going to be spinning my wheels. It's always a thought and a dream, right? It's not attainable,
Mhm.
but it's both having the mindset to want to change and having the
Mm.
opportunity in front of you, right?
Mhm.
So that's why, again, we make sure that people have food. You're coming to the
Mm.
workforce development, but you don't have any food in the house. We have a community market on site. You're coming to training, but your kids need diapers. We have diapers and formula for
Mhm.
them, right? You're going through a lot and you don't have your kids anywhere your kids to go. There is an open gym, right? We have out of school. So if you don't have a home, we have housing, right? So
Mhm.
it's not just giving people information, but it's also helping them with the mindset because people may
Mhm.
not have soft skills training, right? They
Mhm.
may not have the capability to
Mhm.
write a resume, right? So it's not before you even get in the training and all this
Mhm.
stuff, we want to make sure that holistically that people have some of the very
Mhm.
essential needs met
Mhm.
so that there is no barriers about them coming to training every day, about their kids coming to the center and they go home and there is no
Mhm.
food, or they leave the center and don't want to go home because they don't have affordable housing that is safe, or not wanting to come to the center because there's all kinds of abandoned buildings
Mhm.
and dirty lots, which we
Mhm.
know when you
Mhm.
have a cleaner lot and when people feel there's cleanliness, they feel a
Mhm.
sort of safety, they feel a
Mhm.
certain dignity, right? So there's all kinds of things that we're addressing to make sure holistically
Mhm.
that people are not just getting services, but their simple life needs are also met
Mm.
inside and outside of the center. That makes a difference as well.
Well, it's a whole fundamental, like you're building like this foundation. So
Yes,
empowerment is a great choice of words to some, maybe. But
yes.
as you said, if it's piecemeal empowerment, it's a whole lot different than a foundation, like a strong foundation. Let me
Mhm.
ask you, how long did it take? You came from, like, again, you, as you said, you were with one of the largest health care providers for
Yes,
well over a decade.
yes,
And so you had the expertise. When you got to North 10, how
yes,
long do you think it took, like for you, to
yes.
build this foundation so that it worked for you?
Listen, I think they laugh at me because I came
Mhm.
out of that corporate space
Yeah.
and I was like, "Rrrr." They're like,
Hmm.
no, 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 slow down, Nikki. So I came in full throttle. I was
Hmm.
ready to
Hmm.
work hard, but I was also used to managing entire departments
Right.
without anyone, right?
Hmm.
So I was used to being a one-woman show, but when I came here, it was just such a great environment of
Hmm.
support.
Hmm.
And so I love the community that I lived in. So I was very aware of the block
Hmm.
captains. I knew the committee people, right?
Right.
So to come into a familiar space, I was ready to rock and roll. I eased into it very graciously.
Hmm.
It was something that I love too. I've been a person who loves to give back, right? I have in
Hmm.
my own nonprofit myself. My mother has instilled in me, okay, for my father and mother were Black Panthers. Let's just say that with their little berets, right? So
Yep.
they've
Oh, I remember.
always,
I remember.
oh,
I don't know your parents, but I remember the Black Panthers. Absolutely.
so my name is after Nikki Giovanni, who was a favorite a poet,
I
right? So
remember.
I was
Okay.
named
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And so I got that very core of
Hmm.
understanding who I was, of wanting to give back. My mother gives back, and it was something that was embedded in us. And it
Hmm.
wasn't that just because we didn't have a lot,
Hmm.
that didn't mean we need to share what we had, right? So I got that at a very young age. And growing up, being a young mom myself, I laugh at my husband. I
Hmm.
said, I put a tracer in him halfway through our 6 kids. I'm just kidding. But he said,
I
I
was going to
believe
say.
you. We were We were young
I'm like,
parents.
did I hear that right? Yeah, yeah, never.
He said, "I believe you." And being a young mom,
Right.
having, we grew up really trying. We were struggling, but we always had the mindset of change, right? So even though we were very young parents,
Mm-hmm.
we instilled, a work ethic. We instilled giving back. My oldest daughter owns her own film company. My second older is married and she's raising a family. My third daughter, even though she took up communications. She's working in a construction industry. So they all, my kids and my boys are doing an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
We even instilled in that, even as young parents, the mindset to say, even though this situation is trying to press against us and trying to dictate who we will be, we talked to our kids about success. We made
Mm-hmm.
sure they understood it. We provided opportunities that were free, whether it was to play in a band or to travel the world,
Right.
be a young ambassador. We always made
Mm-hmm.
sure that we found ways to show them, number one, that they're special, to empower them at a young
Mm-hmm.
age, and saying these things over and over to them. You are wonderful. You're amazing. You're not going to let this situation dictate who you will be or what you do. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about having a bunch of money, but it's about being successful in your space. So
Mm-hmm.
we always instilled in them that, and that was instilled in me. So I have no other reason and no other excuse but to be that same person I was raised to be. So it's been in me for a long time, John, a very long time.
I love the generosity, and even in terms of like speaking about your family. So you brought up and you emphasized, even though the one child, even though she was in communications, and you emphasized the word, she's in construction. So here's what I was going to like in that. By the way, kudos there, because as I'm learning, that's the home services industry. That's an area that really needs communication leaders
Yes,
not because the people can't communicate, but
yes,
because of the fact that their business model, as I keep being reminded, is much more of a you call me because you got a problem, and then we just go over and fix your problem. And there's
yes,
very little sense of communicative ability. And so I think it's actually pretty visionary that your daughter
yes,
is in the home services field
yes,
because it's needed. So I think that part's great. You mind
yes,
if I ask you, like, there's two things I think about, which is
yes.
like, I remember listening to you speak at the banquet with a bunch of people. I knew some, I didn't know a bunch of others, and that was wonderful. But I remember saying to somebody during an especially passionate part of what you were speaking about, I remember thinking I live geographically maybe about 25 minutes from the
Mhm.
facility, maybe. Um, and I had never been, to my knowledge, I had never been in that neighborhood before. And I
Yes,
remember this crazy sense of thinking, if you watch local news in Philadelphia, one of the news channels happens to be their news format is called Action News. It's been around
yes,
forever, right? And I remember thinking, and I think I might said it out loud to somebody, which was, oh my God, I now know when you talked about the neighborhoods. I'm like, God, that was like the big story on Action News
yes,
every night. And the worst part of it was that you get calloused, and I'll just speak for me, not for other
yes.
people. You get
Mhm.
calloused when you keep hearing about the Hunting Park, East Tioga section, the Hunting Park.
Yes,
You get calloused as to why that's going on. I want to ask you, the question would be this: as you are living in the neighborhood,
yes.
what was it when you started to see, I'm not saying it's a finished project, but
Hmm.
you get there and you, as you said, you come in, you're from corporate, you're all, as things started to at least get done a little,
Yes.
what was that? What did that feel like for you?
So I just got to give you some backstory. So one side,
Please.
we're at 10th and Pike, and historically, if anybody knows about 10th and Pike, 8th and
Mhm.
Butler, it's
Mhm.
still very high traffic on prostitution,
Yep.
trafficking. One reason why our founder Chase Lunfest
Mhm.
purchased the building, which we now have BGM, which is our affordable housing
Hmm.
building, which is 41 units, four-story apartment building. It used to be an old sleazy hotel. I remember walking past this hotel trying to get to
Hmm.
Carmen Gardens when I was
Hmm.
younger, which
Yep.
is a skate rink that we purchased.
Yep.
And it was right across from a school, and people were dying in there. Like literally, they had a prostitution ring. They were
Hmm.
trafficking people in there. And it was such a eyesore and such a bad feeling. It was an eerie feeling. Even I used to run from it, right?
I'm
And now you
sure.
see this amazing apartment building
Hmm.
that now is housing people that have never had these type of beautiful living conditions in the
Hmm.
past, right? So on one side of the neighborhood, which is just kind of north of us, has the highest homicide rate. Where
Hmm.
we're at has this, so it's 1 to 10. So we're across from the highest homicide rate,
Hmm.
and we are dead in the center of the 10th highest homicide rate. So we're between two communities that have the least and the highest homicide rate. So when you're talking about people living in that condition,
Right.
that kids are literally running to the center because it
Hmm.
is a safe haven, right? And not
Yes.
wanting to go home
Hmm.
because you're talking about gangs and you're talking about all kinds of stuff that are
Hmm.
going on a daily basis.
Hmm.
People don't understand that part. So when you're talking about people just trying to live their everyday lives, the
Hmm.
working poor, just coming in the community, those who are working, making somewhat of an income, and then they have to be all this other stuff they have to beat against because of all of these
Hmm.
safety unsafe measures that are around in the community. So one thing I love about North 10 is that not only do we work with the local police officers, block
Right.
captains, committee people, legislators,
Hmm.
we are working together to kind of combat against this violence in the city, right? We
Hmm.
have trauma-informed care, right? We
Hmm.
have people who will come in who are organizations that if a child is dealing with issues around their behaviors or they may have violent tendencies, we have social services that people are sitting with our kids one-on-one, being
Hmm.
pulled out of the classes so that they can sit with them and help them. We have TSA workers. If anybody knows what that is, children are not just usually designated in school if they have some kind of learning disability, social emotional disability, but they're now being able to come in our center after school with these children. So
Wow.
the fact is that we know some of the social societal ills that are happening in this community. We know that it's a food desert, right? That's why we have our market. We know that sometimes there's not holistic healthcare. That's why we're building a community health center. And because of all these things,
Hmm.
when I came to North 10, I saw me being again part of this ecosystem of change.
Hmm.
So the first thing I noticed, yes, that things were still going on, but I said, okay, where is my portion of this, right? And now I was able to
Hmm.
contribute not only my knowledge and expertise and the fact
Right.
that I grew up here, but
Hmm.
the fact is now I'm able to speak to our neighbors.
Hmm.
And if there's an issue on the block, that we can be a mediator, right?
Hmm.
Not with the police, right? But bring the families in. Let's
Hmm.
talk through this. Let's get a professional mediator that can come in. So this is what North 10 does. It's a lot of work, but it is a gift for us to go in that place every day and be a part of this amazing change that is happening in the community because of this beacon of light.
Nikki, as you were speaking, and thank you for that, one of the things I was thinking about was like literally logistics. Like this is one pocket of a huge city. When you said, this will sound like an odd question, but I'll risk it. The number one section as it related to violent crime, and then the number 10. How far in distance is that?
Literally, I can tell you it's less than, when I tell you it's like east and west of Broad Street,
Right.
literally. The west side of Broad Street, not literally, I can tell you zero point 0.3 miles from our
That's
center. Do you hear
so.
me? So one side of
Mhm.
Broad Street has
Mhm.
the highest homicide rates. The other side, and I'm not talking about violent crimes. I'm
Mhm.
talking about murder rate. Let's not even talk
Mhm.
about the
The
other crimes,
most
right?
violent,
We're
the
talking about the
most.
highest
Mhm.
homicide
Mhm.
rates. When you talk about
Yep.
the most violent
Mhm.
communities, right?
Mhm.
And so we're talking about we're in between the highest and the least, right? Not even least, but the top 10, right?
Yeah.
So that's we're beating against
Mhm.
that, right?
Mhm.
But we do not let those societal ills again dictate what we're going to do because we're going to show up. We're going to
Yeah,
be
but
place based.
this is the thing. So if as the fight, as we'll call it, the fight for empowerment, the fight to, get neighborhoods back, as you're talking about a matter of 3/10 of a mile, 3 blocks. So it's like a
Yes,
3 block walk,
literally.
which is like a matter of I time myself, and I'm certainly not the fastest walker. You're
Mhm.
talking like 3 minutes in terms
Mhm.
of distance. I bring it up because that's how close I believe in terms of like change can take place within a 3-minute walk.
Yes.
Um, I remember like at the diner at the diner. Come on, John. At the gala is what I was trying to say. I don't know where diner must
Yes.
have hungry. But what I was going to say was that I remember the current mayor of Philadelphia, Sherelle Parker, and shout out to Sherelle Parker, who's doing amazingly good things so far, said something that night that I thought was astounding. And this will sound like I'm questioning her. I'm not, because
Mhm.
this is just amplifies how close we are to major things that are not perfect. And it
Mhm.
takes very little to open your eyes. She had said something like, something to the effect of that she certainly knew the area, but she wasn't familiar with North 10. Or she said, but I'm going to get familiar with it quickly. I
Yes.
think the reason I bring up the distance is so often there are situations that need attention and they are so much closer than you realize, you
Yes.
know? And to me, that sense of forgotten to empowerment could be a matter of a few blocks.
Yes.
Um, I want to focus on back on what you said earlier because I loved it that night and I loved how it played out where you were talking about having kids that were a part of the
Yes.
evening and they weren't just there as greeters or
Mhm.
as, you know, serving service people, that they were there. There was I want to keep calling her a woman and I'm terrible. I don't have kids, so I call it like rather than girl, you know.
Mhm.
And she was speaking and she was riveting. And I'm gonna guess I asked somebody and the guess was she was around 14 years old.
Yes.
And so I don't remember her name. I just remember I will remember the way she looked and sounded because she
Mhm.
sounded so powerful.
Yes.
Um, Give me a couple of examples because I'm good with this stuff.
So it was Alea and
Thank
Honesty.
you. Yes,
Alea had the white dress on. She welcomed
correct.
everyone with Josh. And then we had Honesty, that's her name,
Hmm.
Honesty, who presented the mayor, right? And then we had Kaleem, who presented one of the awards with one of our board members. So the ironic thing is both Honesty and Alea is also part of our community advisory committee, right? We asked them to be a part of this committee. So oftentimes we have community groups a part of North 10, a part of different organizations, and the kids are left out. So our kids are a part of our community advisory committee. And here is to their testament. And I love this. So they both got an opportunity. They got a grant to fly over to France. So they were in Europe. And this meeting is every other month. So the kids were away. And I texted them. I said, I know you can't come here. We'll let everybody know. They said, no, Miss Nikki. They zoomed in from France, right? To be a part of the to
Five
be a
hour
part
time
of the
difference.
city.
It's a 5 hour time difference.
It
Not
was
that I know anything.
nighttime, and they said, Miss Nikki, we would not miss this meeting for that. Just shows you that
Hmm.
we've done something good. That
Hmm.
children who have the opportunity, not only did they speak and be a part of this, but they had a commitment to North 10. They said,
Hmm.
Miss Nikki, and they're the two youngest of our group. Even though I'm not able to come, I want to be a part of this meeting and I'm going to Zoom in. I can't tell you nothing. And these are the children that have been in our program since they were 6 and 5 years old. And their dedication, and now they're teenagers, their dedication to even the work that they don't have to be a part of the committee. They could just come to the after school program and leave. They said
Sure.
no. They rose their hands and said, no, I want to be a part of change. So that just attests to
Hmm.
anytime that you can impact a child that way,
Hmm.
I think that is giving us our temperature as to we're doing something good, right? So that I always use that
Clearly.
story because you can't believe I can make
Hmm.
that up, right? So yeah.
What's the advise? How do people get on the advisory committee? And I'm thinking of what do the like whether they're children, whether they're adults, what does it take to
Yes.
influence change? Because so many people say, "I want to help." All right, let me on the kids. How do they merit being a part of that community?
Listen, I think no, I don't think it attests to the work that we're doing alongside of them. The
Right.
one thing I will say about kids are honest. They're going to tell you the
Mhm.
truth. They're going to show up if there's safety, if there's
Hmm.
consistency, and there's love, right?
Okay.
Where we're providing the sustainability to say, here are your tools. And they're literally running with it. They're not
Hmm.
saying we have to. They're saying, no, Miss Nikki, we want to.
Hmm.
So a part of that is that everybody knows everybody in the center, from the executive director, Josh Claris,
Right.
to one of our, Mr. Quill, who cleans,
Hmm.
our facility, right? He's our
Hmm.
facilities person.
Yep.
Everybody knows somebody. The guys are playing basketball with the
Hmm.
guys, right? So our staff is playing, and I'm telling you, the kids have beat them guys up a couple of times on the
Well, of
court.
course,
But the
but
fact is,
don't tell the senior advisors that. But yeah, of course.
so it's like it is the environment that we create, right? People are
Mhm.
the heart of the wheel. I say that because I love that mantra. But it's not only, we're not talking about the people that we serve outside of North
Mhm.
End. We're talking about each other, the staff. We're talking about the students. We're talking about our workforce development. We're talking about if you're just coming to get a bag of food.
Right.
Everybody will tell you there is a good experience. Why? Because we see people. We see and serve together.
Hmm.
It's not that we're just saying, "Oh, get in line, you got to go." No, people are coming in. When we give out food, they're out there 6:45 in the morning waiting,
I
right? Not
saw
just
some of
because
them.
they need food, but because they come in, they sit down, they chat, they get coffee, they're watching TV,
Hmm.
the kids get to play. It's like home to them. And you don't always get that everywhere.
Oh, I
I
was
think the
shocked,
environment that
actually.
that environment is conducive to not only change, but the environment is conducive to the way people feel. And when you give people a
Hmm.
good feeling, they'll never forget about you and they'll keep coming back.
I saw that firsthand. There was a sense of peace. I
Yes,
was there with our mutual colleague, Culture Matters CEO Jay Durant,
yes,
who we've referenced a couple of times, but he and I showed up to record a podcast there.
yes,
And it was important for Jay to have me there. What I didn't know is we were going to meet there at like 6:30 a.m. And I was like,
yes,
a.m.? Um, I mean, I'm not a 10-year-old, but it's like I'm thinking a little later would have been. But what was great was that you just watched people showing up. There
yes.
was a
Before we
sense
were
of,
even open.
yeah, absolutely. And there was a sense of
Yes,
peace and
yes,
ease. So when you talk about that sense of people running from buildings, hotels, blocks in a short 3/10 of a block to people sitting at ease, and this is outside because the doors
yes,
weren't open yet. So that they were literally sitting outside and we walked past and it was like, and there was again this sense of ease. So
yes,
I commend you. I acknowledge you for that. But I also want to ask you too, I love the fact you had brought up a little while back because I keep hearing the sense of, I made up the word foundations, but it's this sense of a complete structure. You
yes,
brought up holistic health. Now,
yes.
here's why I'm bringing this up, and I'm curious as to your thoughts because
Mhm.
so often healthcare was, to me, and I'll speak for me personally, a very reactive world. Something's wrong. You
Yes.
go in, you in essence get, I don't know, fixed, right?
Mhm.
How does holistic healthcare, as you know it and as you
Mhm.
fostered,
Mhm.
change things in relation to individuals and communities?
So we're talking about public health here,
Mhm.
very holistic healthcare.
Right.
So I'll use one of our partners who are going to be running our community health center at
Mhm.
Carmen Gardens, Greater Philadelphia Health Action. The fact that this is if anybody knows the difference between an actual health system, which is a hospital where you actually get surgery,
Yep.
deliver babies, to a
Mhm.
federally qualified health center, which really is, back in the day, it used to be clinics that we run. If we had an issue, we were running in and coming in.
Mhm.
That has migrated to and morphed to something more greater, right? So
Okay.
GPHA just they sit on the auspices of saying community health, right? So
Mhm.
inside of their community center, they have a supportive services person, right?
Okay.
They can sign you up for Medicaid or whatever
Mhm.
you need. They're on a sliding scale that says it doesn't matter that you don't have money to healthcare. We're going to take care of
Right.
you.
Right.
So they have their own pharmacy, which a lot of places do not. They even hospitals don't have their own health system, own
Oh, no,
pharmacy.
they don't. Oh,
They
no,
have
they
their own
don't.
dental clinic.
Mhm.
They have their own mental health clinic. They have their own geriatric. So everything they kind of look at healthcare to say, We don't want anybody leaving because I feel like if we tell them to go get a prescription, they may not come back. If we tell them to go get labs, they may not come back. So their mindset is, just like most public health is, that we address some of the societal issues as well as access to care, so that if they come in our center, everything they need is right in the center. That is one reason when we put our RFP out, request for proposal, is that we wanted somebody that we didn't want to have 5 different providers. We wanted one provider, and they've been around for 54 years in Philadelphia. We wanted one provider that can address everything. Because if a person comes into your clinic, or this is how public health works, and we know that there's a child that may be autistic, right? So they're having all these health issues because they're autistic. So you have to really care for autistic child differently than you have a child who is not on the spectrum, right? Not saying a child is worse or better, they're just on a spectrum. So
Different.
they learn
It's simply
differently.
different, right?
They just learn differently. They absorb things differently. So the fact is that we wanted, and this is how we're approaching healthcare. We also approach healthcare outside of that. And people say, well, how do you do that? Because of the social determinants of health. People are not healthy. We have to address the reason why people are not healthy. And they're healthy because they don't have access a lot of times to affordable housing, right? Who wants to live in a house that's falling apart, right?
Right.
They're not healthy because they're worried about not getting healthy foods in the house, because food insecurity is not just that you don't have food, but you don't have access to the right food, right? So you can go down the corner store and get 25 cents, or I'm telling my age, 50 cents now, a bag of chips. Whereas, right, I'm telling my age. Whereas
10 cents if I'd said it. So God bless you. That at least.
So now we have a community market that we have fresh fruits and vegetables. They have their own carts. There is integrity to how we give out food. We don't give out food. People shop for themselves at our community market. People have little carts. They come in and shop, and they pick their items. So this is how we address healthcare. We address it in ways that help people to pay attention to their health. We make sure they have the things that they need. But then we pick a provider who understands what holistic care is, culturally competent healthcare. Because sometimes people will say things that they don't know how to express themselves if it's an Asian family, and don't realize you can't, if it's a husband and a wife and they come from a certain culture, just using an example, and say you can't talk to your wife, even if she's pregnant, you got to talk to your husband. So we have an organization that does that, and they have a whole center in the Asian community. So we needed somebody who understands culturally competent care. That's another way to make sure that there is no implicit bias. That's another way to ensure that we have people who understand the culture of those they serve. So that's one way of doing it. I hope I answered the question right.
You totally did.
Those are these ways that we kind of address, and we need people who understands what holistic care. It's not just a doctor, but it's everybody else who's wrapping around this person. So that's how we address it.
So I love the way that you solved that. But here's my question. Have you gotten pushback within cultures? Because one of the things that it'll sound weird, but I'll just say it. We just growing up in Philadelphia, and I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia. Lived in Northeast Philadelphia for, I guess, was close to 25 years. My first 25 years. So my understanding was of Philadelphia and culture was that in Northeast Philadelphia, everybody lived in Northeast Philadelphia. That was the weird and the cool part, right? And whether Latino or Asian and or Russian and or Irish and or everybody, African American and everything. The problem was everyone lived in silos. Now,
that's
you
true.
didn't know that, but you were. And the reason you didn't know that is you were highly discouraged from going outside of your chosen silo, right?
That is true.
So that was the problem. So
that was true.
Prejudice and inherent weird competitiveness and was built into the fact that you didn't leave your neighborhoods. Because something, whatever, was going to happen as a result. Let me ask you, because I'm familiar in terms of geographically there, the Latino community and the African American community, and you brought up the Asian community. And it is different only not because of the people, but because of the culture. How have you been able to, has there been pushback from one community to another in regards to service? And if not, how do you make that work to create what I would call a true multicultural
I think I think
ecosystem.
it, I think it's just breaking down the barriers. If you look at the immediate area that we serve, because we get people from all over the city for our food
Right,
pantry, right? So
right.
when you look at the dynamics that we are really in the catchment area that we have, it's about 7,000 people that we are in our catchment area, and we serve about 60% of that population is African American, 40% is of the Hispanic community.
Right.
What how people, it's about trust, right? First off,
Yep.
because we have a high percentage of people who come in, 90% of our families frequent the market, right? Which
hmm
is different than those who are part of our workforce development.
hmm
But we find that we understand what culture looks like. So we have people that speak Spanish, right? We got to have our staff that speak Spanish. We don't want there to
hmm
be barriers there. And we have people who are of other cultures that are also there to help kind of break down those barriers. But I think it boils down to trust.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter whether you're in our
hmm
service area or not. But again, it goes back to the feeling. And when people see that they feel comfortable,
hmm
they feel hospitality, they feel consistency, they feel the sort of love, they're going to show up because they feel that they can now trust you. And it's
hmm
built on trust. We show up for people in a way that they feel that there's a level of trust that they have for us. That's it right there. I mean, that breaks down every barrier. That breaks down every culture. We have families that come from Northeast. We have families that come
hmm
from West Philadelphia, literally just to come in and just to sit all day because we are a heat. When it's cold outside, people can come in our community space and get warm. When it's hot outside, we're a cooling center. So people just come in here to get on their laptops. People come in here to watch television, let their kids play. It is literally a comfortability level that
hmm
people feel comfortable and safe. And I think that's what it boils down to.
I used to work with a Spanish language television company for about 12 and a half years. And during my television sale, all in sales, not in
Mhm.
on air, nobody wanted me there. But I was going to say, but in the sales side, I did. And also worked with our general manager for another station was the first, yeah, she was the first African American woman to have owned and operated a local television station in the United States. And so what I remember was the sense that I was taught specifically at Univision. I remember this, the words, the mantra, welcome, invite, and include. That was
Yes,
more so to the businesses that we were speaking with, that we would
yes.
ask in regards to their ad campaigns or what have you.
Hmm.
Are you proactively doing that? And
Hmm.
rather than singling people out, it's a sense, it's just understanding differences and people react differently. You said something earlier where you were talking about, well, we know to speak to the man in this case,
Yes,
understanding those sorts of cultural
yes.
in terms of nuances.
Hmm.
In addition to bringing people in that are of the culture, how do you instill trust in that sense, knowing those sorts of nuances? How do you make that work?
I just think that it boils down to trust. Like we want people to know that we see them and we respect them, right? If
Mm.
there is
Mm.
something that they need or a certain
Mhm.
way that they have to get
Mhm.
it done, we're said fine.
Mhm.
We want to be flexible. We
Yep.
want to understand that there are certain accommodations that we need for families, right? Who are different
Yeah.
cultures, who understand things
Mhm.
differently, right? We have a gentleman who I really adore, who's from Egypt,
Mhm.
right? He's in our graduate Philly program, so
Right.
he's in there to help them go back to college.
Mhm.
And he comes dressed up because he's an entrepreneur and he said, I'm
I
going to
love
have
this.
this business. He comes in ready. He said, I dress up all the time because I know that I'm going to be a business owner and I know that North 10 is going to help me. And every time
Oh
he
my
sees me,
God.
he goes like this. He said, Nikki, you are part of my change in my life.
Mm.
We just appreciate you. And he brings his children and he brings his wife. And his
Mm.
wife doesn't understand English, but she goes like this. She said, oh. She always does that to me. And she gives me a hug.
Oh my God.
So
I
when that's it right there.
that's a
It,
beautiful
it's the
description.
response. It's the
Mhm.
response. It's the response.
That
Yes.
it to me, I watched incredible loyalty build when I was working with those television stations simply based on trust. No one has described it though as well as you, and I love that. Speaking of culture, I wanted to focus on something. It is an initiative. You talked about a building that you purchased, and I think of, and again, I remember being a part of a meeting where you were talking about Carmen Gardens, and I
Yes.
bring that up specifically because I remember in terms of the culture that's involved there. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? The skate party,
Yes.
can you talk to me a little bit? Us, a
Yes.
little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, so the Carmen Gardens skate
Hmm.
rink is the building that was purchased
Hmm.
because part of this all together plan, that
Hmm.
strategy that we built with our residents
Right.
of Hudson Park East Tioga. One of the things that they wanted is a health center, right?
Hmm.
Temple University, shout out to Temple.
Hmm.
They have the ER, they do a lot of things, but
Go
they really
Owls.
wanted
Uh,
something really um that was really something that was really more holistic. And so we wanted the health center. They wanted the health
mhm,
center. So part of that was that we purchased a building, although
mhm.
the community wanted another skate rink.
Sure.
Some people wanted another skate rink.
Mhm.
They really, overall, they wanted the health center.
Mhm.
So what we decided to do after talking to the community was build a health center. So
Mhm.
now what we did again, put out an RFP to find out who could manage that center.
Right.
And we're building this amazing health center.
Mhm.
But part of what we said that we were going to do,
Mhm.
although the skate rink would no longer be there,
Mhm.
we wanted to make sure that we held on to the historical preservation of it and held on to the memory and legacy. So part of this
Mm.
building this health center is we're going to have a center within the center dedicated to Carmen skate ring. So we're going to have the disco ball and the skates and these
Mm.
testimonials that will be on cycle to talk about what they were and what they did and all these beautiful displays. So part of that historical project cost about $200,000. So what we're doing is we're going to have a skate party at Linda Center where we had the gala. So we're gonna buy a
Ah.
skate floor. We're gonna have a 70s party. I told Josh I'm gonna get him a rainbow afro that he has to put on. And
Oh,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
have
yeah.
a party, a skate party on February 21st at the Linda Center. So we're so excited about this project. The owner of the Old Carmen Skating Rink is also
Right.
part of our community. And he's 77 years old. He walks around here like he's 20. And so he's a part
Mm.
of this project as well.
See,
Um,
that's a
so
culture getting it then. That's
yes,
to
yes,
me like how you respect a culture, not see to me, there's a difference between respecting a culture, honoring a culture, and patronizing. And it's not patronizing. And so to me, it's a true honor and acknowledgement of what that was, why it mattered, and the moving on part. Um,
yes.
I could talk to you for about the next 6 hours, but I'm going to ask you for this moment two more questions uh, in regards. And the first question happens to be this, which
Hmm.
is looking forward, what are some things that really matter to you in regards
Yes.
to affecting change as it relates to North 10 and for you in general?
Yes. What I look forward to in a perfect world is to make sure every block in the area that we
Mm,
serve have all the necessary tools that they need to thrive and be sustainable,
mm,
right? Every house porch fixed, every
mm,
family
mhm,
at a affordable market that has fresh fruits and vegetables, healthy foods, a community of entrepreneurs
mhm,
where the business corridor has businesses of the mom and pop shops that may have been around 50 years, what
mhm,
that every storefront looks good and every school has every tool that they need for our kids to thrive. Um, if I had a vision of perfect change, our parks to be filled with beautiful trees and green grass, every sports team to have the equipment that they need, every child to have an opportunity to play an instrument or a creative writing or art, right? I would like that every light bulb be lit in every pole at night so that these
mhm,
dark spaces in the communities are lit. Um, if I had a perfect world, I would want every family to be sustainable, them to have everything they need to thrive, and to have access and for fair, equitable, equality and equitable access to everything they need to survive in this life in a perfect world. So no crime,
Oh.
no crime, no crime.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want people to have um, a fair opportunity for everything they need to have the American dream. I want the American dream to be real to every
For
person
every
in this
person.
country. Yes.
For every person. So I'm going to acknowledge you right now out of respect for your time and letting you know how your vision, but also your effort. It's both.
Yes.
You see things and you do things, and to me, that's
Yes.
extraordinary. Now,
Yes.
in addition to going to the North 10 website, which will be in the bio, so no
Mhm.
one is going to have to guess where to find Nikki, what
Okay.
would be the best ways for them and individuals, groups, organizations, corporations to
Yeah.
help?
Yes. So for North 10, I mean, you can always visit our cool website. We have a cool
You
website.
do. Oh, you
We
do.
revamped our website.
Mhm.
You can always visit. I know that that John, you'll have it displayed, but visit our website
100%.
at north10 philadelphia.org. If you need to get up with me, you can always reach
Mhm.
me at
Mhm.
267-314-7401. That's
Mhm.
267
Mhm.
314-7401, or just visit our website. All of our information is on there. You can come by and take a tour. We love giving tours every day. If you want to donate, we always need donations, whether it's
Mhm.
in-kind donations, because people
Mhm.
don't know it's not just monetized donations, but we take in-kind donations. We are
Mhm.
always often needing of brand new shoes for kids and
Right.
families. We always need brand new clothing. We collect diapers and
Mhm.
anything people need to be sustainable, right? We want make sure we have care packages for families.
Mhm.
If anybody comes on, I don't care what time of the day it is, if they need emergency food, they don't have to wait to our food distribution
Mhm.
days. We create the small packets of food and we
Mhm.
provide that with people when they come in.
Mhm.
So visit our website, come visit our
Mhm.
center, be a part of this eco change.
Mhm.
Like John, I feel like John is family now, and he
I
has
feel
been
like it,
a
you know?
champion of North Ted, and
Yeah,
we just
absolutely.
appreciate and
100%.
love him dearly for his support. I mean, he has been there for us the last year, so we thank you. I could not, end this or leave here without
Yeah.
saying to you, you mean so much to us, John. You are a fiber of what we are here at North 10. You have championed us and you have showed up for us in places when people don't know us. And now they'll get to know us on another level because of your platform.
Uh,
And we just appreciate it. All of this means so much to us.
mm. I'm so grateful. And oh my God, you get me all choked up. The last question for the moment, which is simply a yes, no. Will you
Yes.
come back?
Yes, I will. Absolutely, I will come
Great.
back.
Great.
Yes, I enjoyed myself.
I love it. Nikki Bagby, I am thrilled that you showed up for us as you show up, period. For your community, for everybody. I'm grateful that you chose to show up for me and for us. Nikki Bagby, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
kind
John.
words and most importantly, your actions. So thank you for that.
Thank you, dear.
Absolutely. Folks, you just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep watching, listening, liking, sharing. Tell your family and your friends and tell them about north10.org, North 10 Philadelphia, PHL.org, and that site will be right here. You don't have to hear me stumble through the words, but we're thrilled that you keep showing up for us. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will be back with more. Have a great day, all. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.